30 days, 2 eggs a day. What changed in my body will surprise you. It all began on a quiet morning. The kind of morning where nothing seems unusual, the light through the curtains, the slow stretch of your legs, the steady hum of the kettle boiling in the kitchen. But that day, I made a decision. A small one. A gentle one. I decided to eat 2 eggs. Not just that day. But every single day for the next month. Now, this wasn't some dramatic, made-for-TV transformation plan. There was no fancy coach or strict diet chart hanging on my fridge. I simply looked at the carton of eggs, the same ones I'd always used for baking or the occasional omelet, and I thought, what if something this small could actually make a difference? I'd heard so many things. That eggs were good. That they were bad. That they were back to being good again. Honestly, it was confusing. But something deep inside told me this wasn't just about food. It was about me. My energy. My strength. My memory. My sleep. Because something had shifted. I'd started noticing the small signs, the ones we often brush aside. A little more stiffness in the knees. A little less clarity in the head. Some days I'd wake up feeling like my body needed more help than I knew how to give. And that's the thing. At a certain point in life, we stop wanting to fix everything and start wanting to feel whole again. Not young, but strong. Not perfect, but clear, peaceful, and able. That's where I was. And that's where these 2 eggs came in. So, I told myself, for the next 30 days, I'll start each morning with 2 eggs. I won't change anything else. No new routines, no expensive supplements, no workouts. Just me, my usual life, and 2 simple eggs. I had no idea what I was about to learn. Because the changes that followed weren't just in my body. They were in my mind. In my sleep. In the way I moved, thought, and even felt. And as each day passed, something else became clear. This wasn't a story about food. It was a story about returning to yourself. And it all began with breakfast. The first thing I noticed, almost without realizing it, was how satisfied I felt after breakfast. Not stuffed. Not heavy. Just complete. Like my body quietly said, that's exactly what I needed. For so many years, I thought a good breakfast meant something light. A piece of toast. Maybe some fruit. Sometimes even just coffee. I thought it was better to eat less, to stay disciplined, whatever that meant. But the truth is, my body wasn't getting what it needed, not in the morning, not for the day ahead. Eggs changed that. You see, eggs are simple. But they're also surprisingly powerful. Inside that smooth shell is everything a little bird would need to become strong, to grow bones, feathers, organs, muscles, everything. It's like nature packed a full starter kit into one small shape. And when we eat that, we're giving our own body a version of that same, full support. There's something about the quality of the protein in eggs. It's not just any protein, it's the kind that your body knows how to use. Like giving your cells a language they already speak. I could feel it in my muscles, even early on. I wasn't going to the gym or lifting anything heavy. But I didn't feel as tired doing simple things, like carrying groceries, or standing longer in the kitchen. It's like the little motor inside me got a drop of better fuel. And then there's the fat, that beautiful, gentle fat in the yolk. Not the kind you fear. Not the kind that clogs you up. But the kind that helps your brain hum and your joints move without complaint. I used to be afraid of fat. We were all told for so long to avoid it, like it was the enemy. But now, science tells a different story, especially when it comes to whole foods like eggs. The fat there isn't the villain. In fact, it might just be the missing piece. And let's not forget the vitamins. There's something almost magical about how eggs carry what we need. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, all tucked into a tiny golden yolk. Things that help your eyes, your bones, your nerves, even your mood. You don't feel it right away like you would with coffee or sugar. But give it time, and it starts to work deeper. I remember sitting by the window one day, about a week in, and feeling more present. Not in a big way. But there was less fog. Less of that sense that my mind had to stretch to catch up with itself. It was subtle, but it was there. And all I'd done was eat 2 eggs. Nothing more. That's when it hit me. We've been underestimating the small things. The foods our grandparents knew. The simple gifts of nature that don't shout, but quietly rebuild. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about what I should cut out. I was thinking about what I could finally give back to myself. Not as a diet. Not as a fix. But as a beginning. One of the first things people ask when they hear about eating eggs every day is, but what about your heart? I used to ask that too. I remember all the warnings. The old news stories, the advice from magazines, the quiet worry in the back of my mind every time I cracked open an egg. Cholesterol. That was the word that lingered like a shadow. For years, it felt like something dangerous, something hiding inside that yellow center, just waiting to harm me. But here's what I've learned, not from guesses, but from science that's finally caught up with the truth. Cholesterol isn't the villain. Not the way we once believed. Our bodies need it. It's part of our cells, our hormones, our healing. It becomes a problem only when other things are already off, when inflammation, sugar, and stress light the fire. But eggs? Eggs are not the spark. They're part of the balance. I was nervous at first. I won't lie. I thought, maybe I'll feel something strange in my chest. Maybe my blood pressure will rise. Maybe I'll regret this. But what happened was the opposite. I started to feel calm. Not the kind of calm that comes from a pill or a nap. But the kind that comes from a body working the way it's supposed to. A steady rhythm. A quiet pulse. My hands were warmer. My feet didn't get cold as often. I'd sit in the evening and feel steady. Grounded. That's a word I hadn't felt in a long time. And when I looked deeper, not just into how I felt, but into the research, I saw why. Eggs aren't hurting the heart. In fact, they're supporting it. There are nutrients inside that yolk, ones with names I won't throw at you, because they don't matter as much as the feeling, that help lower the kind of cholesterol that does harm, and raise the kind that helps you heal. It's like the body knows what to do with a real food. Something whole. Something unchanged. There's wisdom in that, the kind of wisdom we often forget when we chase perfect numbers instead of real health. And perhaps most surprising of all? I felt less afraid. Less afraid of food. Less afraid of my own body. That fear, the one we carry quietly, the one that grows louder with every new headline, it started to loosen its grip. Because I was no longer eating with guilt. I was eating with care. 2 eggs. Every day. No rules. No shame. Just listening. Just watching. Just feeling. And what I felt was strength, not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that lives deep inside your chest and beats, every day, without asking for praise. That kind of strength is worth protecting. And sometimes, it begins with letting go of old fears. And cracking open something we once misunderstood. There's a moment when you stand up from a chair and feel your body hesitate. A tiny pause. A little warning. Your legs remember the years, your knees whisper back at you, and your balance, once silent and sure, now wobbles just a bit. I used to brush that off. I just need to stretch more. It's the weather. But deep down, I knew, something deeper was shifting. What surprised me most during these 30 days wasn't just what I felt in my muscles or my mind. It was what began changing in the very structure I relied on every single day, my bones. Eggs, as it turns out, hold more than we give them credit for. There's a quiet partnership inside that yolk, between the calcium we all know and something less talked about, something that tells the calcium where to go, what to do, and how to stay there. It's like giving bricks to a builder is only half the job, you also need someone to lay them properly. That's what eggs helped with. The strength in my legs didn't return overnight. But gradually, I noticed I wasn't gripping the railing as tightly. I didn't flinch at the thought of uneven ground. I stepped with more trust. And trust, in your own body, is not something you realize you've lost until it begins to return. You might be thinking, bones are deep inside. How could you possibly notice a difference? But you can. You notice it when you twist to reach something behind you and there's no twinge. You feel it when you climb steps and your hips don't complain. You sense it in how your spine holds you, not like a tired coat rack, but like a tree that still wants to stand tall. It wasn't just strength. It was stability. The kind of strength that makes everyday movement feel safe again. And more than once, I caught myself smiling at that. Not because I'd done anything dramatic, no supplements with long names, no intense exercise routines. Just 2 eggs. Simple. Consistent. Kind. I began thinking of eggs not as a food, but as a message. A message to my body that said, I haven't forgotten you. I still care about what holds me up. Because that's what bones are, the quiet architecture of our lives. They let us hug, carry, bend, walk, and sleep. And they deserve more than calcium tablets left forgotten in a drawer. They deserve nourishment that speaks their language. And somehow, these 2 eggs each morning became just that. Something changed around the second week. It didn't happen all at once. But it was there, gentle, quiet, and unmistakable. I began sleeping better. Not the kind of sleep that knocks you out and leaves you groggy. No, this was different. It was the kind of sleep where your body sinks, your breath deepens, And you wake up without that old fog pulling at your thoughts. For a long time, sleep had become a kind of coin toss. Some nights were decent. Others felt endless, eyes open, thoughts spinning, the clock glowing back at me like it knew something I didn't. I tried the usual things. Herbal tea. Less screen time. Calming music. But the real shift came from something much simpler. From food. Eggs, believe it or not, carry the building blocks your brain uses to make peace. Not just the kind that helps you fall asleep, but the kind that lets you stay there. That soothes the nervous system like a lullaby that hums beneath the surface. And I noticed something else. During the day, I wasn't so easily thrown off. The little things didn't rattle me as much. A delay, a mess, a sharp word, they didn't stick to me the way they used to. It's not that the world changed. I did. There's something powerful about feeling fed in the right way. It's like your body stops panicking and starts cooperating. The brain, especially as we age, needs real fuel. Not just calories. Not just caffeine. But deep, slow-burning nourishment. And eggs, with their richness and completeness, offered exactly that. Even my thinking felt sharper. Not in a dramatic, genius way. But in a calm, clear, steady kind of way. I could follow a thought all the way through without losing it. Conversations flowed more naturally. I reached for words without effort. It was like someone had opened a window in a stuffy room. And in that clear space, something else returned. Joy. Joy in small things. In sitting with a book and actually wanting to read it. In finishing a sentence and feeling proud of how it landed. In looking out the window and simply being present with what I saw. It wasn't a miracle. It was biology meeting kindness. And when kindness meets the brain, sleep comes. Peace comes. Clarity comes. It's a strange thing to say that 2 eggs helped me sleep, helped me think, helped me breathe easier, but they did. Not like a magic trick. But like a soft wave, washing away the noise I didn't even know had built up inside me. And night after night, that wave kept coming. Not louder, just deeper. It started with stairs. I was halfway up when I realized I hadn't stopped. I hadn't grabbed the railing. My legs felt steady. My breath was even. And when I reached the top, I didn't feel like I needed to sit down right away. I just kept walking. It was such a small thing. Barely worth noticing, maybe. But when you've spent years adapting, pacing yourself, bracing for the ache, a small thing like that can feel like a sunrise. Movement felt different. I wasn't suddenly running marathons. But I was moving with ease again. With less hesitation. Less negotiation with my knees and hips. My body, slowly but surely, had started cooperating in a new way. I wondered why. And then I remembered something a kind old doctor once told me: energy doesn't always come from doing more. Sometimes, it comes from giving your body what it's been missing. That's what this felt like. I hadn't changed my routines. I hadn't added exercise or cut out anything. The only difference was 2 eggs. But the way my body moved, the way it carried me, that was new. And here's the thing. Movement isn't just about muscles. It's about readiness. It's about how your body responds when you ask something of it. Climbing steps. Reaching for something high. Getting up from the floor. Turning without stumbling. Walking a little farther, a little faster. These are the movements that define daily freedom. And they had become smoother. Less effort. Less strain. I began choosing the long way through the park instead of the shortcut. I found myself humming while doing chores, not because I had more time, but because I had more rhythm. More flow. And it wasn't just physical. That movement extended to how I approached the day. Less dragging myself through the hours. More stepping into them. I even noticed that after a good breakfast, 2 warm eggs, gently cooked, maybe with a little tomato or herbs, I stood taller. I walked straighter. It was as if my body said, "Thank you. Now let's go." It's easy to underestimate what steady, nourishing food can do. But the truth is, movement doesn't start with motion. It starts with fuel. With what you give yourself before the day asks anything of you. And after 30 days, I could feel it. My body didn't resist the day the way it used to. It moved into it. There was something else. Something I hadn't expected, hadn't planned for, hadn't even known I wanted, until it appeared. I started to feel alive again. Not in some dramatic way. I didn't feel younger. I felt present. Steadier. More comfortable in my skin. Like a house that had been cleaned out, room by room, with the windows thrown open and the sun finally coming in. It started with the mirror. One morning, I caught a glimpse of myself and paused. My skin, it looked different. Not glowing like in a magazine ad. But clearer. Less dull. My eyes didn't seem as tired. Even the fine lines around my mouth looked softer, as if my face had let go of something. Then came my hands. My nails weren't chipping as often. They felt stronger. I hadn't changed a thing about how I cared for them. No new creams, no special treatments. Just breakfast. And then there were the mornings. You know those first few minutes, right after you wake up? When your body checks in with itself. Any pain? Any stiffness? Can I move today? Well, those minutes were different. Lighter. Quicker. Like my body had already started before I even opened my eyes. It was subtle. Quiet. But unmistakable. I felt like I was building something. Day by day, layer by layer. Not fixing or repairing or rushing. Just restoring. Not because I was chasing youth, but because I was finally listening. I even noticed little sparks of motivation. Not every day, but often enough to feel real. I wanted to call an old friend. Rearrange the cupboard. Learn something new. These little urges had been silent for a while, buried under the weight of fatigue and forgetfulness. But now they were returning, like birds coming back in spring. All this, from 2 simple eggs a day. It's strange how such a small change can bring forward parts of you that had gone quiet. Parts that were still there, just waiting. Waiting for care. Waiting for nourishment. Waiting to be remembered. And the more I listened, the more I understood, this wasn't just about nutrients or vitamins. It was about how those nutrients made me feel. It was about trust, in food, in my body, in the idea that small things, done kindly, can lead to something powerful. It reminded me that healing doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't need fireworks. Sometimes, it shows up gently, in the way you breathe, in the way you stand, in the way you carry your day without dragging it behind you. And that, for me, was the real surprise. Looking back, it still amazes me how something so small could make such a quiet, steady difference. 2 eggs. Every morning. For 30 days. No dramatic declarations. No extreme changes. Just a quiet promise I made to myself, and kept. I didn't start with a goal to change my life. I just wanted to feel better. Less tired. Less foggy. More capable. I thought maybe it wouldn't matter. Maybe nothing would change. But I was wrong. My energy lifted. My sleep deepened. My steps grew steadier. My mind grew clearer. And my body, my wonderful, aging, worthy body, responded with grace. There was no magic in the eggs themselves. The magic was in the consistency. In showing up for myself every morning. In starting the day with something nourishing, something whole, something real. Because when we give our bodies something steady, something simple, something they recognize, they begin to remember how to heal. This wasn't about perfection. I still had long days. I still had stiff moments. But the difference was in how I met them. With more strength. With more calm. With more clarity. And maybe that's the heart of it. We spend so much of our lives looking for answers outside ourselves, in pills, in routines, in big promises. But sometimes, the answer is already in the kitchen. In something as ordinary as an egg. In a moment of care, repeated over time. That's what this journey gave me. A new rhythm. A new trust. A reminder that health isn't about chasing youth, it's about protecting vitality. And that vitality, at any age, starts with respect. For your body. For your needs. For your mornings. So if you're wondering whether something this small can really matter, I'll tell you what I know now. It can. Because it's not just about what you eat. It's about how you begin. It's about what you choose to believe is still possible. It's about the quiet strength that builds, bite by bite, day by day, when you decide that you are still worth caring for. And you are. So the next time you stand in your kitchen and wonder where to begin, maybe you'll remember this. 2 eggs. 1 plate. 30 mornings. And a body that says, thank you.